Okay, so this time we focus on collecting, of course, and analyzing, of course, the collecting and analyzing the data, I mean.
Can I start na po, Doc?
Okay. Collecting and analyzing data in research for managers is an essential process aimed at acquiring information to guide decision making and strategic planning within the organization. At its core, now data collection involves identifying relevant sources which can range from internal databases to external market reports. So depending on the research objectives. So managers must carefully select appropriate methods for data collection, whether through surveys, interviews, observation, or document analysis, ensuring alignment with the research goals and constraint. And to give us more details about the topic, let us all welcome our presenter. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good afternoon, Doc. Good afternoon, classmates. So I'm going to discuss the chapter 8, which is the collecting and analyzing data. So collecting and analyzing data is very significant in research studies, as Doc mentioned. So because it allows researchers to draw meaningful conclusion, identify the patterns, trends, and relationship in the data, and test the hypothesis. So this process help ensure the validity and then yung reliability ng research findings. So in this chapter, the objectives is to understand collecting primary data, learn several methods for collecting primary data, and understand collecting and analyzing secondary data. So, what is primary data? So, as earlier reporter, which is Miss Bernadette, she mentioned that it is the information gathered during the process of conducting experimental or descriptive research through activities such as experiments, surveys, observation, and direct communication with the participant. So, in primary data, we have four methods, no, for collecting this primary data. So, the first one is the observation method, the interview method, the questionnaire, and the schedule. So let's discuss the first type of method. First is what is observation method. So yung observation method is commonly used in studies relating to the behavioral science. So under this method, observation becomes a scientific tool and the method of data collection for research. So when it serves a formulated purpose and it's systematically planned and subjected to checks and control. So under the observation method, we have three types: the structured and then the unstructured observation. That is the first one. So let's explain what is structured observation and the unstructured. So structured or descriptive observation is involves following a specific plan or meron silang set of guidelines to observe and record specific behaviors or events. So itong type of observation na to is typically used when researchers ay to have a clear idea of what they are looking for and kung ano yung gusto nila i-collect na data in a systematic and very organized manner. So an example of this is using the predetermined checklist of behaviors to systematically observe and record the specific action or events. While the unstructured or exploratory observation, so on the other hand, it involves observing in a situation without a specific plan or guideline. So itong type of observation na to is more flexible siya and it allows the researchers to explore a wide range of behavior or events without being limited by a predetermined set of criteria. So unstructured observation is lagi siyang ginagamit when researchers are trying to gain a better understanding dun sa mga bago or unfamiliar situation. So this is a more flexible approach where the researchers observes and record behaviors or interaction without predetermined checklist, allowing for a more open-ended exploration of the subject. So the second type of observation method is the participant, non-participant, and the disguise observation. So when we say participant observation, it involves the researcher actively participating in the situation or group being studied. So often taking on a role within the group to observe from within. So itong approach na to is allows the researcher to gain a deep understanding of the group's behaviors, yung norms and yung interaction. So an example of this is if the researcher joins hiking group and participate in their activities, so taking notes on a group dynamics and interaction. So yung non-participant observation naman is it involves the researcher observing from outside the situation or group. So without actively participating. So this approach is more objective but may limit the researcher's ability to fully understand the context of the behavior being observed. So, for example, a researcher sits in the park. So, ino-observe niya lang yung mga children while playing. So, taking notes ano yung mga behavior without interacting with them. So, yung disguised observation naman is when the researcher observe the group or situation without the knowledge of the participant. So, ito lang itong ginagamit yung disguise na to or hidden observation method to minimize the impact of the observer on the behavior of the participant, allowing for naturalistic observation. So, like for example, on the mall area, like you wear casual clothes and blend with the customer, ino-observe mo yung shopping behavior nila without revealing their identity as a researcher. So, hindi nila alam na researcher ka. So, the last type of observation method is yung controlled and uncontrolled observation. So, controlled or laboratory observation involves conducting observation in a controlled environment. So, katulad ng laboratory where variables can be carefully manipulated and controlled. This allowed researchers to study specific behaviors or phenomena under the controlled conditions. So, an example of this is a psychologist conducting a study on memory retention by having participants memorize a list of words in controlled laboratory settings where factors such as lighting, yung noise level, then yung temperature are carefully controlled and standardized. So yung uncontrolled or exploratory observation involves observing behaviors or phenomena in natural settings without any manipulation or control over variables. So itong approach na to is more open-ended and allows researchers to explore a wide range of behaviors and interaction on their natural context. So like for example, a sociologist observes and take notes on the behavior of shoppers in a mall to understand yung shopping habits and social interaction nila without manipulating any variables or controlling the environment. So, observation method has advantages and limitations. So, ano yung mga advantages ng observation method? First is subjective bias is eliminated. Data is not affected by past behavior or future intention. The natural behavior of the group can be recorded. And then the limitation is expensive methodology. Information provided is limited. Unforeseen factor may interfere with the observational task. So the observation methods offers several advantages, yun nga including yung elimination ng subjective bias, and then as observation are based on direct perception rather than interpretation. So it also provides data that is not influenced by the past behaviors or future intentions. So offering a more immediate and objective view of the subject. So additionally, this method allows for the recording of natural behavior in its real context. So providing valuable insight into group dynamics and interaction. So however, so itong observation method, as I mentioned, there are limitations to consider such as the high cost associated with the conducting observation, yung limited amount of information that can be gathered compared to other methods, and the potential for unforeseen factors to interfere with the observational process impacting the reliability of the data collected. Sorry, wait lang po. Okay, next is yung second method, which is the interview method. So this method of collecting data involves presentation of oral verbal stimuli and reply in terms of oral verbal responses. So it can be achieved by two ways, personal interview and telephonic interview. So personal interview is it requires a person known as an interviewer to ask question generally in a face-to-face contact to the other person. So it can be direct personal investigation. This means that the person concluding the interview needs to gather information directly from the relevant services or sources themselves rather than relying on secondhand information or reports. Yung indirect oral examination naman is the interviewer has to cross-examine other person who are supposed to know about the problem. So this means that yung interviewer needs to ask question and get information from other people who are believed to know about the issue being investigated. And then yung structured interview, ito yung interview that follow a set of question already decided before yung mag-start yung interview. So the interviewer also uses specific methods to record the information gathered during dun sa interview. Unstructured interviews, kabaliktaran naman siya ng structured interview, which mean it is that not follow a system of predetermined questions. So it is characterized by flexibility of approach to questioning. So this means that interviews do not have fixed set of questions to ask. So instead, the interviewer can be more flexible in how they ask question, adapting based on the conversation and the responses given. Focused interview, it is means to focus attention on the given experience of the respondent and its effect. So this type of interview aim to understand the respondent's experience and how they were affected by them. So the interviewer can ask question in any order or way that helps explore the reason and motives behind the experience shared by the respondent. Clinical interview. So this is a method focused on understanding the deep feelings, motivation, and life experience of an individual. So the interviewer directs the conversation to elicit information about this personal aspect. So for example, imagine an interviewer talking to a job candidate. So instead na mag-ask siya ng specific question about their previous job or skills, like the structured interview, yung interview will ask the candidate to talk about a time when they faced difficult situation at work and how it made them feel. So the interviewer is interested in understanding the candidate's underlying feelings, motivation, and life experience. So which can help them learn more about the candidate's personality and how they might handle similar situation in the future. And then yung non-directive interview is the interviewer's job is to get the respondent to talk about the topic as much as possible without asking too many direct questions. Like, for example, in an interview about new product, instead asking, do you like product? The interview might say, tell me about you think about the product. So this encourage the respondent to share their thoughts more freely without being prompted with a specific question. So, personal interview method has also an advantage and limitation. So the advantage is more information and in-depth can be obtained, samples can be controlled, there is a greater flexibility under this method, personal information can also be obtained, and misinterpretation can be avoided by the unstructured interviews. So the personal interview methods offer these several advantage, yeah. So including yung ability to gather more detailed and in-depth information galing sa mga respondent, and then researcher can also control yung sample size and selection, ensuring a representative group is interviewed. Additionally, itong method na to is allowed a greater flexibility as interviewers can adapt their approach based on the respondent answer. So personal interview also provide the opportunity to gather information that may not captured through other methods. So, however, ito yung mga limitation niya. It is an expensive method. Possibility of bias interviewer or respondent. More time-consuming. Possibility of imaginary info and less frank responses. High-skilled interviewer is required. So, there are the limitations such as yung time and resources required to conduct interviews as well as yung mga potential for bias or misinterpretation. So especially yung mga unstructured interviews where the interviewer's influence can be more significant. So next type is yung telephonic interview. it requires the interviewer to collect information by contacting respondent on the telephone and asking question or opinion orally. So the advantage of this is the telephonic interview offers several advantages, like including its flexibility, yung speed and cost effectiveness compared dun sa other methods. It's also allow for easy recall and often result in a higher rate of response from participants. So additionally, no field staff is required. So reducing logistical requirements. So however, it also have our limitations. So such as the short interview duration, typically limited to 5 minutes, which restrict the depth of information that can be collected. Yung method na to is also limited to individual which telephone access. Question must be concise to the point and limiting the amount of information that can be gathered to other interview methods. So next is the second type of gathering primary data. Wait lang po. So in this method, a questionnaire is sent or mailed to the concerned respondent who are expected to read, understand, and rely on their own and return the questionnaire. So it consists of number of questions printed on type in a definite order on a form on a set of forms. So itong method na to is involves sending a set of questions dun sa mga responded by mail. So an example of this is yung mga customer satisfaction survey sent by the company to its customer. So yung survey na yun is include question about the customer experience with the company's products or services. So the customer received the survey by mail. So they can fill it out at their convenience, and then they can return it to the company using a pre-addressed envelope. So the essential of a good questionnaire is it should be short and simple. Questions should be proceed in logical sequence. Technical terms and vague expression must be avoided. Control question to check the reliability of the respondent must be present. Adequate space for answer must be provided. Brief direction with regard to filling up the questionnaire must be provided. The physical appearances, quality of paper, color must be good to attract the attention of the respondent. So, ang sabi is a good questionnaire should be concise and easy to understand. So, with question presented in a logical order, and it also should avoid technical jargon or yung mga unclear language, including control question can help ensure the reliability of the responses. So, providing enough space for answer and clear instruction on how to fill out the questionnaire are also important. So additionally, yung physical appearance of the questionnaire such as the quality ng paper and then yung mga color na ginamit should be appealing to attract the respondent attention and encourage the completion. So parang like kung ikaw is survey ka, then you will use a questionnaire, and then yung questionnaire mo is pagtingin mo pa lang is ang sakit niya sa mata. So as a respondent, hindi mo na siya fill outan, like dahil messy siya, magulo, hindi siya organized, like, and then yung color na ginamit is like parang rainbow, which is hindi siya appealing sa mata tignan. So next is questionnaire method is also has an advantage. Free from the bias of the interviewer, respondent have adequate time to answer. Respondents are easily and conveniently approachable. Large sample can be used to be more reliable. So, yung questionnaire method nag-o-offer din siya ng mga several advantage as I mentioned, now including the freedom from interviewer bias, allowing the respondent adequate time to answer, and being easily accessible and convenient. It also enables to use a large sample for increased reliability. However, it also have limitation. Low rate of return of duly filled questionnaire. Control over question is lost once it's sent. It is inflexible once sent. Possibility of ambiguity or omission or replies. Time taking and slow process. So these are the limitation, yun nga, such as the low rate of return sa completed questionnaire, and then yung loss of control over the question kapag once they sent it to us, and then yung inflexibility method niya once it deployed. So there is also possibility nga na yung of ambiguity or omission in replies, and then itong process na to is really time consuming and sobrang mabagal siya. Next is what is schedule methods? So this method of data collection is similar to questionnaire method, with the difference that schedules are being filled by the enumeration specially appointed for the purpose. So this type of data is helpful in extensive inquiries, however, it's very expensive. So ang sample ng method na to is, like for example, household survey conducted by the government agency to gather information about the demographics, income levels, and living conditions. So, enumerator are hired and trained to visit each household. So, explain the purpose of the survey. It fill out the survey forms based on the responses provided by the residents. So, this method ensures that all households are included in the survey and helps clarify any question the residents may have about the survey. So next is collecting and analyzing secondary data. So what is secondary data? So as mentioned earlier from the previous reporter, so yung secondary data is a researcher can obtain from various sources. Secondary data may either be published data or unpublished data. So yung this could include books, article, reports, or data sets that are available sa public. So yung unpublished data naman is refers to the information na hindi pa formally published and may include things like yung mga internal company records or yung mga personal diaries. So before using secondary data, it must be checked for the following characteristics. So first one is yung reliability ng data. So who collected the data, from what source, which methods, possibility of bias, and then yung accuracy. So look at who collected the data, where it came from, and how it was collected. So check for any possible bias and make sure the data is accurate. Next is yung suitability ng data. So the object, scope, and nature of the original inquiry must be studied and then carefully scrutinize the data for suitability. So make sure na yung data is fit siya dun sa purpose of your research. So understand what the original study was about and whether the data is relevant to your needs. Last one is yung adequacy. So the data is considered inadequate if the level of accuracy achieved in data is found inadequate, or if they are related to an area that may be either narrower or wider than the area of the present inquiry. So ensure mo na yung data is accurate enough for your research. So if yung data is too broad or too narrow for your needs, it may be not be adequate for your study. So that being said, bago mo gamitin yung secondary data for research, it's very crucial to verify its reliability, yung suitability, and yung adequacy. Because this involves checking who collected the data, its source and collection method, yung assessing for bias and accuracy. And additionally, ensuring na yung data is aligned with the scope and nature of the original inquiry is sobrang importante. So lastly, the data should be adequate in accuracy and relevance to the current research need. Yeah, ayun lang po. Thank you po.
Okay, so again, once data is collected, it undergoes rigorously scrutiny to ensure accuracy and reliability. And this involves processes such as data cleaning and validation to eliminate errors and inconsistencies that could compromise the integrity of the analysis. So data is then organized into a format conducive to analysis, whether through numerical man yan, coding, or thematic categorization for qualitative data. So proper organization streamlines the subsequent analysis process and facilitate the extraction of meaningful insights. Again, data analysis encompass a range of techniques tailored to the nature of the data and the research question at hand. So descriptive statistic provides a snapshot of key trends and patterns, no? While reinferential statistics enable managers to draw conclusions and make predictions based on sample data. No? Qualitative analysis techniques such as thematic coding and content analysis, no, offer deeper insights into complex phenomena, complementing quantitative analysis with rich contextual understanding. As what you did, no, during your first activity, no, that you are going to conduct an interview, and this is a direct interview, that is qualitative data, a first-hand or primary data. No? So, interpretation of the findings is critical. No? This will be a critical step in the data analysis process. So managers must discern meaningful insights from the data and assess their implications for organizational decision making. So this requires a nuanced understanding of the business context and the ability to discern actionable recommendations from the data. So drawing upon expertise in both data analysis techniques and in the industry knowledge, managers translate data-driven insights into strategic initiative that drive organizational performance. So throughout the data collection and analysis process, again, as I mentioned during the first presenter, ethical considerations remain paramount. Manager must uphold principles of confidentiality, privacy, and informed consent when collecting and handling data, ensuring that ethical standards are maintained at every stage of the research. So ethical conduct not only safeguards the rights of the participants, but also enhances the credibility and integrity of the research outcome. So continuous learning and adaptations are essential aspects of data collection and analysis and research methodologies for managers. So as new methodologies and technologies emerge, managers must stay abreast of the latest developments in data analytics to leverage cutting-edge tools and techniques. This entails investing in ongoing professional development and fostering a culture of innovation and experimentation within the organization. Because again, effective communication of research finding is equally crucial to maximize their impact on decision making. Managers must distill complex analysis into clear actionable insights that resonate with stakeholders across the organization. So whether through reports, presentations, or interactive dashboard, effective communications ensure that research outcomes are understood and embraced by the key decision makers. So again, as what we discussed, collecting and analyzing data and research for managers is a multifaceted process that requires careful analysis, careful planning, rigorous execution, and truthful interpretation. Leveraging a combination of quantitative and qualitative analysis techniques, managers can extract actionable insights from data to inform strategic decision making and drive organizational success. But we have also what we call mixed method, a combination of qualitative and quantitative research. So ethical conduct, continuous learning, and effective communications are essential pillars of this process. So ensuring that research outcomes are both credible and impactful in addressing managerial challenges and opportunities. So I think that's it for topic number 2. Okay, so may